Today we are revealing to you the truth behind the power of thought, how as a man thinketh got twisted, and how the worldly laws of attraction tried to mimic the divine laws of attraction in vain. Welcome to another captivating episode of the Divine Mystery Files, where we embark on a transformative journey to uncover the sacred truths and hidden mysteries of life. Here at Blooming Life, Mind and Spirit, our mission is to guide you toward a deeper understanding of the divine plan, a path that nurtures healing for your body, mind, and soul. Get ready to explore profound insights that not only illuminate ancient wisdom, but also inspire meaningful change. Stick with us unto the end, as we unravel mysteries that will definitively reshape the way you see your life and purpose. Here's what we have already touched on the surface so far. We have already been introduced to some sketchy information about the worldly law of attraction. Now it's time to start digging a little bit deeper, beginning with the divine laws that the worldly law of attraction has tried to mimic in vain. As we navigate through these divine laws, we will unravel the honest truth behind the power of thought. Yes, there are laws that the worldly law of attraction has tried to mimic and failed woefully. Not only that, the authors of this misleading law led the whole world astray, far, far away from the original truth. You are about to discover some shocking facts that will change your mindset and life forever. I'm talking about the real laws, which do not focus on what you think or what you feel as the main trigger of your outcome, but surprisingly on what you do or don't do, obedient actions, not pretentious actions. This is the bottom line. Obedient actions will ensure that your actions are consistent with your heart's intentions all the time. A separate episode has been reserved to discuss what you should be obeying and doing, so no need to worry at this level. Here's the most fascinating part about the divine laws. They ensure that only those who do not do what is required of them will have their greatest fear come upon them. Yes, only selective thoughts are empowered to manifest depending on what you do or don't do. No personal opinions here, because all declarations will be supported by authoritative sources and hard proofs. By the way, this is good news for those who have been battling with how to monitor their thoughts and focus only on the positive ones, something which is absolutely impossible to do so long as you are human. But according to the laws you are about to discover below, your negative thoughts will not come to pass, provided you are actively doing what the divine law requires of you. Like I said, it's okay if you don't understand anything I just told you, but if you really want to understand, then continue listening. The divine laws of attraction were created to be universally applicable and compatible with everyone, unlike the worldly law of attraction. Again, the divine laws of attraction were designed to make both your body and soul to prosper. Let's proceed to check out these powerful divine laws that were carefully hidden for thousands of years. Laws which the worldly law of attraction failed to mimic woefully. The first fundamental aspect of the original law, as a man thinketh, so is he, has been grossly misunderstood. First things first, who is the real author of As a Man Thinketh? We are now getting deeper into the rabbit hole to discover some very deep stuff. Don't worry, for the wisdom of Yahweh will guide us. It is important to identify the starting point of this worldwide deception that up to now is still taking a huge toll on billions of people out there. You first of all need to understand this deception because it's intricately linked to the supposedly powerful worldly law of attraction, as it entails the use of the mind. We are about to debunk this dangerous worldly law of attraction, trash it for good, and orientate you to the right path of power and healing for your body and soul. That's right. So let's take a closer look at this famous saying, as a man thinketh, so is he. While this saying above is completely true, we already have a clue on how its meaning has been distorted and manipulated for centuries, making it a hoax. It's time to go deeper into this saying. Let's check out where this deception first originated. In fact, the internet has it that James Allen was the author of this famous saying. His best-known work, As a Man Thinketh, has been mass-produced since its publication in 1903. It has been a source of inspiration to motivational and self-help authors. Take a note at the highlighted date, 1903, when that say became official, making James Allen a hero of such an important declaration, whereas all he did was copy-paste from the original laws and integrate his own misleading theories. You might ask, copy-paste from where? Here's your answer. The Bible, Proverbs 23, verse 7. For the record, the Bible was first translated in English in 1526, implying that the saying above had already come into understanding existence 377 years before James Allen discovered and rebranded it to be his own. I use the word understanding existence because the famous saying was already there way before the Bible was translated into a language that could be understood by the majority. Now that we know who the real source of this famous saying, as a man thinketh, it's time to understand it in its appropriate context. Not only was this saying copied from the KJV Bible, but the meaning was also modified, distorted, manipulated, and abused. Up to today, no one that I know of has ever really discovered what the real meaning is. But this is about to change now. In the meantime, modern motivational speakers have picked up with the deception and just continue with the propaganda. All of them have it wrong and keep referring to the power of the mind. This is so wrong. As a man thinketh has absolutely nothing to do with accessing some imaginary thought powers, and I'm about to prove it to you. This interpretation is way out of context, and I'll explain here and now. The explanation has been right in front of us all this time, but everyone seems to stop at this phrase, as a man thinketh. Let's get to the bottom of this with Proverbs 23, verse 7. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. First thing to note, this scripture right here is referring to the very first time this notion was evoked. That is, in the Bible. And James Allen simply replaced he with a man, and it suddenly became, as a man thinketh. But what does it mean? Here's the second thing to note. The interpretation starts from the : punctuation mark. If you are a fervent reader of the KJV Bible, you would have noticed by now that punctuation marks play a very important role when it comes to understanding the real KJV Bible. It is exactly the same principle that is being used by the : punctuation mark in KJV. What follows the : punctuation mark is an explanation of the previous verse or sentence. If you revisit the quote we have just presented above and reread the sentence immediately after the : punctuation mark, you'll find the real meaning of as he thinketh in his heart. That's right. This series has made the task simple for you because we have simplified the explanation. This is a phrase after the : punctuation mark. Eat and drink, says he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. Since this is a proverb, what could this mean literally? Here are possible interpretations in the correct context. Someone might be offering you food and drinks, but he doesn't love you. Someone might be offering you food and drinks, but his heart is somewhere else. Someone might be offering you food and drinks, but his heart is with somebody else. Someone might be offering you food and drinks, but his heart does not agree with yours. Someone might be offering you food and drinks, but his heart is angry, envious, stingy, complaining, meaning he is defined by the contents of his heart. That is, he is an angry, envious, stingy, and complaining person, irrespective of all the food and drinks he's offering. The verse we have just seen is trying to let us understand that actions do not necessarily reflect what's going on inside the heart of man, because his real personality is the contents of his heart, not his physical actions. So here's the creepy stuff. The Bible says, your real personality is defined by your thoughts, not your actions. But human beings who call themselves philosophers say, your thoughts attract what you want. Did you catch the deception point? Just observe and see the super crazy stuff that's going on here. Psychological manipulation to an undefined degree. Seriously, where is this interpretation coming from? What's the relationship between the two? This has got absolutely nothing to do with some powers attributed to the thoughts, because your thoughts have zero powers to make anything happen in the physical world. The proverb above is explaining in simple language that your personality is defined by what you hold in your heart. To summarize the proverb above, it should read like this. His real personality, is what he thinks, not what he does or says. So don't be deceived by physical actions or words. Or, he is what he thinks, not what he does or says. So don't be deceived by actions or words. That's all. This has got absolutely nothing to do with some delusional thought powers, because there's nothing of that sort. When you understand the subtle manipulation of the original truth, it will pave the way for a better understanding of the process we will use to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Let's take a look at the second fundamental aspect of the original law. Not everyone attracts fear, even if they think about it. You heard that right. How cool is that? Seriously, you should be excited by this great news. Only the wicked attract fear with their thoughts, because the original law says so. No personal opinions involved here, please. And again, this series will prove it to you. So relax. However, you might be asking $1 million question. Who is a wicked person? This will be a subject of the very next episode, where we will discuss in great details the 4 categories of persons involved in the divine law of attraction. Discussing the details here will most likely make us go out of topic, just to let you know that it will be covered as well. But right here and now, we will prove that only wicked people attract what they fear the most, not the good people. The latter have been defined in the next episode as well. So even when good people have fearful thoughts, those thoughts don't have the powers to manifest. This is how amazing and justified the original and divine laws are. We have understood that the worldly law of attraction perpetuates the delusion that our thoughts shape our future and our universe. It went on to suggest that you attract whatever thing you are predominantly thinking of. We will debunk this theory now. When you discover the real laws governing fear, everything will make perfect sense. I find this totally just and fair, because it's absolutely impossible to remain positive 100% of the time. What did the original laws say about fear? Here are just some examples, which represent all the laws. Stating all of them here would be impossible, but I've included references to enable you to continue your research on your own if you want to. The first original law used to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Let's check out Proverbs 10:24. The fear of the wicked shall come upon him, but the desire of the righteous shall be granted. Please take note of the use of words here, particularly wicked and righteous. Fear takes place at the level of the thoughts, so what misleading motivational speakers want you to believe is that your thoughts, be it fearful or joyful, will dictate what will come into your life, which is definitely not the case. Please stay with me. Only the fearful thoughts of the wicked person shall come to pass, and not those of the righteous. More details in the next episode. Let's move on to the next law. The second original law used to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Proverbs 3:25. Do not be afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. You see the proverb above, clearly outlining the plagues of the wicked. Sudden fear will be their harvest, desolation, and the proverb ends with, when it cometh, as if to say, they shall surely come. And a word of consolation to those not categorized as wicked, do not be afraid. It doesn't mean that you will attract what you fear as a righteous person. Let me rectify this straight away. It simply means that when it happens, as humans, the destruction will come as a very fearful sight to behold. And Yahweh is encouraging the righteous to be courageous when they witness the downfall of the wicked. Like I said earlier, the definition of wickedness will be handled in the next episode. You see the notion of fear being evoked as the wicked is being discussed. Let's move on to the next. The third original law used to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Isaiah 66 verse 4. I also will choose their delusions and will bring their fears upon them. Because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they did not hear. But they did evil before mine eyes, and chose that which I delight not. You can clearly see again how the evil and wicked ones are being assured that their very own delusions and fears will be brought upon them. Not everybody's fears, but those of the wicked. This cannot be coincidence repeating all over. There's more. Continue listening. Don't get anxious as to what is expected, because it will be covered extensively later. The fourth original law used to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Proverbs 12:21. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. Yet again, the wicked shall have more wicked stuff, mischief brought upon them. Let's move on to the next. The fifth original law used to debunk the worldly law of attraction. Proverbs 1:26. Verse 26. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. Verse 27. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Verse 28. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Verse 29. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose to fear the Lord. Perhaps you might be getting bored with all the facts I'm pulling out from the Bible. Remember that it's the exact same book that was used by James Allen to initiate the whole idea of attracting wealth and results with your thoughts. This idea has been reconstructed and rebranded several thousand times since then. Either you learn the hard, undiluted truths the way they are, or you simply ignore and wait for your worst fears to come pass. This was assured in the proverb we have just discussed. If you hate knowledge and live in ignorance, then your fears will come to pass. These are actually the secrets that will engage physical and spiritual healing effortlessly and free of charge once you start implementing them over your life. There would be no need to buy any spiritual objects or some crystal stones, because they have quite the contrary effect, polluting your temple and giving it access to the wicked one. These laws are divine, and our series does not intend to rebrand any of them. The objective of this series is to use the same source to debunk the misleading opinions out there. Remember that we are debunking the worldly law of attraction, which says anything comes to pass, so long as you have in your thoughts for long periods of time. But we have just seen that only the wicked will have their worst fears come upon them, making this principle suitable for every individual on this planet. So if you are sitting there planning evil and eventually do it, remember that it is the doing that triggers the outcome. You have every reason to run when no one is pursuing you, according to Proverbs 28:1. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. Please give a round of applause for the creator of the universe. Isn't he amazing? When it comes to the divine law of attraction, it boils down to your good actions, which must be consistent with your heart. The divine rules will be disclosed in the relevant episode of this series. There are hundreds of other verses, all consistent with the fact that the wicked will have their fears brought upon them, not the fears of the righteous. Here is another one which I really love, Romans 13 verse 4. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. So many of them. Famous example motivational speakers often use to support the worldly law of attraction. Motivational speakers always refer to the famous story of the holy man in the Bible, Job, to support their false theory of the worldly law of attraction. Job 3 verse 25. For the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid of has come unto me. Do you see how much these guys are making good use of the Bible? Because that's the source of all their misleading interpretations. Are you reading your own Bible, more specifically the KJV? You should be reading it to avoid further deception. Reading your Bible is the only way to go in these end times. It's quite nourishing. You should make a habit to read your Bible if you want to save thousands of dollars paying for the services of motivational speakers who manipulate the truth all the time. These guys are excellent at quoting things way out of context, and this series will continue to prove it to you in each and every episode. So if they read the Bible, you must do the same. You shouldn't be intimidated by the word of Yahweh. It brings life, clarity, and freedom. Because if you are not, you have to be prepared to continue to spend thousands of dollars on success lies, which are yet to be discovered in the Bible. In fact, the famous story of Job can be used against the worldly law of attraction in the following ways. Here's the first way the famous story of Job can be used against the worldly law of attraction. This is hard proof that the righteous are free from evil, even when they have fearful or negative thoughts. Now listen carefully. Before Yahweh started playing games with Job, he lived a completely safe life, despite the fact that he had hidden fears as he expressed them above. However, none of the fears came to pass, because all his acts were righteous in the eyes of Yahweh. Even though as a human being Job had fears, Yahweh ensured that none of them came to pass. Even the devil complained that there's always a hedge of protection surrounding everything Job had, and he couldn't attack him in any way whatsoever. But all this protection didn't stop Job from having fears. It's a normal feeling we can't escape as humans. Rest assured that as for the fears of the wicked, it is divinely automatic. They shall come to pass without any firewall. Here's the second way the famous story of Job can be used against the worldly law of attraction. Job was an exceptional case because Yahweh was testing him, and he allowed the devil to go extra miles in tempting him. The devil had to obtain express permission to do all he did, meaning in the presence of Job, the devil was powerless without that special permission. So yes, Yahweh gave the devil authority to bypass all those rules. Overall, Job's experience was clearly not the norm, but an exception that the whole world has come to know. And to prove that this was an exception, Yahweh restored everything Job ever had and doubled it. This does not happen to the fall of the wicked. They never rise up again. So if you're living a righteous life and something bad happens, please understand that Yahweh is moving, and remain righteous and thankful during the trial. Therefore, the example of Job is not a suitable one for promoters of the worldly law of attraction to evoke all the time. Now that we know the truth, no more lies from these money-thirsty individuals. It was yet another successful attempt to mislead the masses. And unfortunately, it worked amazingly well. But not to worry, we still have time to reverse all the lies we have been fed. Is the worldly law of attraction a truth or a hoax? The worldly law of attraction is definitely a scam. This is what is certain. The worldly law of attraction failed to mimic the real laws, and its deception has been working ever since its inception up to today. Here is a summary of the misleading preaching of the worldly law of attraction. Firstly, the worldly law of attraction says like attracts like, whereas the original laws declare that only the wicked will have their fears brought upon them. The righteous are immune to this curse, so congratulations if you are making a conscious effort to do good. More on what you should be doing in the next episode. Secondly, the worldly law of attraction depends on thoughts and feelings, whereas the real laws focus on intentionally good action or inaction. That is, what you do or don't do for a good purpose or intention. These two aspects have been hopefully covered in this episode, but rest assured that you will be meeting them again in the subsequent episodes, in one form or the other, because divine truths always intertwine and demand a summon for understanding. Here is another interesting finding. One of the original laws requires that you don't even make use of your intellect and imagination. No joke. Check out Proverbs 23 verse 4. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. There are other things you should be actively laboring for, but not riches. And ironically, when you focus on the right things, riches will be a byproduct. Interesting indeed, but true. More of these rules will be disclosed later. But the findings so far are already so stunning if you get what I mean. Bottom line, if you want to become really successful in material wealth, you must reverse engineer your mind and stop exercising some thought powers which do not exist. This series will show you exactly what to do to reverse engineer your mind and start doing the right thing. If you're interested to learn more, then watch out for the next episode. In order to be notified when our next upload is available, like this video, subscribe and hit the all notifications bell so that you'll be immediately informed by YouTube when any of our uploads are available. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next upload.